Hello, I've been a long time lurker on this sub, but today I actually encountered one of these people. This whole Karen thing had seemed like it wouldn't happen in my country, but I was proven wrong this morning. They do exist everywhere, I guess. Also FYI, because I'm a huge ball of anxiety and introvertedness, which is the reason for my poor handling of the situation and also the reason I really can't remember the whole encounter. So I, 22, female, live in Istanbul, and always ride the subway to my college. Although, not to brag, but yes, I would like to brag, I go to a good college. The line I have to use to get to the campus is, in our, Istanbul locals terms, goes through most of the not so great parts of the city. And it is crowded, very crowded in the mornings. Also it is a long ride and there are very few seats in the trains, it's mostly standing space. So as usual I was waiting in line to board, and as frequent train/subway users would know, there are spots for people who are gonna board to wait, and you leave the middle space empty as a courtesy so that others can leave the train easily. Now we are not Japan, so nobody ever lines up perfectly here, but also mostly we have the basic decency to stand, or pile up, let's say, at the right spots to make boarding and leaving easier. I was second in line when this lady pulled up and there was 5 minutes till the next train. She stood right in the middle where people are supposed to get out. This is annoying since it's the first and last stop of the line, so if we don't let others empty the train, we can't get in ourselves. But I kept quiet since I don't want to start shit and get myself in trouble. So the train pulled up and she immediately cut in front of me and pushed me aside violently. People are trying to exit. She's blocking the way and pushing me, but BC, it's so crowded I have nowhere to go, so I push her back. She instantly started screaming, which is unnecessary. BC, we can board at this point and she already has won a spot to sit, and so have I. Now a fact about me is I'm ridiculously tall, 181 cm/5'11", easily a head taller than this country's height average for women. She has already sat down but she's yelling and talking shit. Meanwhile I'm getting mad for the second. She screams at me saying a camel has height too, but you still don't have shit on me. A bad translation for a very insulting idiom to tall people in my language. Screams demanding to know how old I am. BC, I have no respect for my elders and am just a teenager. At this point I'm seeing red. I should have handled this better, I know, but I'm very socially inexperienced and also probably have undiagnosed anger management issues. I do hit myself or other things when I'm mad, but she was refusing to shut up and still yelling, insulting, complaining, how she was older and I was just a child and yada yada. So I get up and yell at her back to shut the hell up, and she immediately gets up like she was waiting for it. Gets up in my face as I yell at her to cut it out and that she cut in and pushed me first, and all she's saying is that she is older and I'm just a teenager. She then pushed me back and slammed me to the bars. For someone the height of a turd, another idiom as a diss from us but to short people this time. Out. She had crazy strength, or maybe I'm weak, I don't know. Short people freak me out. Couple of people break us apart and I hit a guy that got between us. I seriously felt so bad, had a panic attack about this later on. The guy who witnessed saw how she cut in and pushed me. She is now yelling at him saying, "Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this?" Like, yes Karen, he is seeing through your lies. We sit back down at this point, but she is still repeating herself and screaming. And we get back up a few more times where she tries to throw hands. Other people are protesting at this point, yelling at both of us to STFU, and it's too early in the morning for it. Also the train has arrived at the next stop, so some people leave and call security. I have called her an ancient whore at some point, which is also the reason she is screaming like a banshee. Again, I'm not proud of how I handled things, which is why I had a panic attack. BC, I was so mad at myself. I had texted my mom during all of it and she immediately called and tried her best to calm me down, and told me to switch to a different wagon, and I did. She was screaming at me, "Where the hell are you going? Get back here," while people kept telling her to STFU. So yeah, that was my morning. Cried all the way to school and had multiple panic attacks and missed my class, computer sciences and engineering. If anyone's interested, I love my major, but it's very tiring, and now I'm writing this. I hate saying this. BC, people lost jobs, economy crashed, it was hard for a lot of people and many other bad stuff happened, but I really loved how I could stay inside during the pandemic. BC, shit like this didn't have to happen. To note, the clubhouse of my layout holds a small fair every year, before COVID, and I would set up a stall there. On to the story. It was around October of 2019, before Halloween. The clubhouse started handing out flyers. So I reserved a table to set up my stall. I woke up at around 5 in the morning and set out to work on setting it up. I had brought out my guns, Nerf, Fire's foam bullets, and the previous day I had made a target. The type of target you'd see in an archery range, taped to some cardboard boxes. In comes a woman maybe in her mid-30s or 40s. She had her son with her. Son was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and he wouldn't stop looking at the guns. To be clear, I had 3 guns on the table. One called a Streif, which is battery powered. Important, they seemed to only be interested in the Streif. Other 2 guns aren't important to the story. So these people showed up and offered to try the guns and paid the regular price, around half a US dollar. Just like anyone else, they finished shooting and paid up. Then came the entitlement. For typing's sake, let's call the lady K, and the son KS. K, give me my money back. Me, why? You just finished doing the activity and you paid. K, the gun you gave us was too hard for KS to fire. I gave him the battery-fired gun because I didn't think he would be able to use the others. Me, you already fired it. I can't refund your money, sorry. KS was speaking a language I'm not very good at, so this is a rough translation. Mom, I want to take the gun home. I think he was referring to the Streif. K changed her approach and said, I would like to buy your gun. And held up money equivalent to $2 in her hand. I'd just like to say that this family looked very well off and even parked outside the clubhouse in a Mercedes. Nonetheless, I said, I'm sorry, these guns aren't for sale. If you'd like, you can pay me another half a dollar to use them, but I'm not selling them. Kay then loses her cool and says, take my money and give me the gun. This starts to attract some passerbys. Me. Kay, you know what? Because of the trouble you are putting me through, I demand you give it to me for free. I didn't buy this gun, it was a gift from one of my friends when I moved from USA. I got a little angry and thought of just calling security to take them away, so I did. The closest guard was around 20 feet away and I knew him quite well. On returning, K and KS were gone, and so was the gun. I catch her running to her Mercedes and damn near dragging her kid across the pavement. Let's call the security guard G. G gets to them right before they enter the Mercedes and snatches the gun put of their hand. She then screams something about ruining her child's holiday and drives off. Management recognizes this woman as someone who has caused trouble in the past and banned her from the clubhouse. I then made around $50 in the fare and bought some headphones. Not as bad as some other things I've seen on this thread, TBH. Backstory: this happened in the 1990s. My parents own a 40-acre farm in the middle of nowhere. After 5 years, the trailer next door that was on 2.5 acres went up for sale. The dogs were put in a pen to go outside when the new neighbors were moving in. The husband looked like he killed his own mother and enjoyed it, but the dogs didn't even give off a whimper. The wife, when she came up the driveway, the dogs went nuts and wanted to tear into her. Our dogs are not violent, but we came later to understand why. My mom, being the nice southern lady that she is, went next door to introduce herself and wanted to know more about the new neighbor. It all seemed well until the wife asked who owned the field behind her house. Mom bashfully replied that it was hers and my dad's. After that, the conversation got awkward and Mom excused herself. A couple of weeks later, Mom and Dad were coming home from shopping and found 3 kids no older than 7 all over our farm equipment. Mom and Dad chased them off to the neighbor house. My mom went over and asked why those kids were over there. They found out it was the neighbor's grandchildren. When Mom told her that they needed to stay away from the farm equipment because one of them will get hurt, she said, I don't care if one of them gets killed. I want that field one way or the other, pointing to the field behind her house. Mom and Dad immediately called the sheriff and an attorney to find out what they could do to protect themselves. They both said that they needed no trespassing sign every 100 if possible, especially where the equipment is normally stored and around the property. When Mom and Dad did that, the signs around the property were disappearing. One time, as Mom was coming down from a tree to put it high up to where they had to come on the property to get it down, a gun blast hit the sign above her head, and off in the distance was the wife yelling smugly, "Oops. I guess my gun went off accidentally." Things cooled down only when my brother came home on weekends from college to watch the house. Plus, my parents made their schedule more random during the week, so the neighbors didn't know if anyone was there or not. However, They were still causing problems like small things disappearing from our yard and them saying that it must be some druggie looking to steal anything for drugs. It was so bad at one point in time that Mom and Dad asked if they could buy their property. The property was worth $50,000 at the time. My parents offered $60,000. The wife said, "Sure, you can buy property at $250,000. Take it or leave it." Even my parents' property at the time was not worth that much, so they left it. However, it took a turn for the better 2 years after the offer. The husband wanted a divorce from his wife. This was a grand total of 4 years of dealing with her. Side note, the husband never met my parents until he moved out a week prior. He said his wife told him that my parents, especially my mom, were crazy and for his safety needed to stay away from them after my mom's initial visit. When he finally found out that his wife was the one that was crazy, he left her. About a month after that, the husband came back talking about how the divorce was going and wanted to know if they were interested in the property. They told him about the offer 2 years ago and he said he never heard about it, nor about his grandchildren coming over hoping that one of them would get hurt, but it didn't surprise him. When we told him how much we offered, he said, "The divorce attorney said that the sale of the house will be split 50-50ths. I don't care if you offer a nickel just to spite her." A week after that, the wife came to my parents' house asking if they were willing to buy at the $60,000 they offered initially. Mom and Dad said that they will buy it at what the appraiser will say it is worth. Because of the depreciation of the trailer and because the wife didn't take care of the trailer, it was appraised at $40,000. Mom was ready to be spiteful and offer $30,000, but Dad disagreed and said that would be a good restart for a guy that had to live through this for all those years. I, 24, met the real-life version of the Simpsons comic book guy this weekend. The appearance was nothing alike, but the entitled attitude and voice pattern were definitely there. I'm working my job as a cashier, and at first the customer, I'll call him Jeff, was normal. We did the whole "Hi, how do you do, find everything okay," and then Jeff asks if we have a restroom. I explained that, due to global situation and people stealing our toilet paper, true story, we don't have one for public use. He gets this semi-disgusted look on his face. "But, you're a store," he says, in a tone that suggests I'm stupid for saying no. I shrug and keep scanning. He says he needs cigarettes as well, so I go to the cigarette case. Me, "What kind?" Jeff, "Brand Red 100s. Brand has about 3 different red packs, and I'm more familiar with Brand 2 anyway, so I ask for clarity as per usual with Brand. Jeff, like he's talking to a child, "They're red, in a 100 pack. I guess at this point, take out a pack, and finish the transaction, at which point he literally sticks his nose in the air and looks around haughtily. And where might I find the number for corporate? Seriously, dude? Over an employee bathroom and cigarettes. I scan the receipt that's printed, but all that's on there is our personal store number. I tell him he'd have to look online for it, and he huffs out of the store. I've had more entitled customers, but I thought I'd share my most recent.